How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're starting Daf Pei Gimel, Daf 83 of Masechet Sanhedrin. Friends, your friends. What are we doing? Well, okay. So yesterday we had learned the Mishnah. The Mishnah. I'm just going to reference back to the Mishnah Daf Pei Aleph Mid Beis. We said Agonev Tzakasva Makal B'Kosim Abola Ramas Kanoin Pokenbo, and that led to a whole discussion about Kanoin Pokenbo. Now the Mishnah continues and says Kohen Sheshimesh Betuma in Echav Kadim Mevin also the Bezdin El Pichi Kuna Motziin also Chutz Lazar Mafziin Asmocha B'Gzirin. That's essentially going to be what we're going to discuss today. That's essentially going to be what we're going to discuss today. That's the kind of, but it just, okay. Basically, the concept of Tamei Sheshimesh, right? A Kohen who's Tamei, who serves in the Beis Hamikdash, and what happens, right? The Mishnah says that his fellow Kohanim go and they puncture his brain. What if they didn't do that? Then what, is he Chayiv Kares? Is he Chayiv Misa B'dei Shamayim? What is it? Then we get into this whole brisa about all sorts of things that you Chayiv Misa B'dei Shamayim for, and then we get into how we learned that out from. It's it ends up being a very technical daf. And then tomorrow we're going to finish the Perek, also kind of more technical stuff till the end of the Perek, but then we start the 10th Perek of Eluin and Nechnokin, strangulation. Interesting. Okay, so we're going to start on Daf Pei Beis Amud Beis. Jews, we have a shtickle to do, Darton, but about 15 to 20 lines from the bottom of Daf Pei Beis Amud Beis, it says Kohen Sheshimesh Betume, or a Kohen who serves in the Beis Hamikdash when he is Tomei. So we said in the Mishnah that his fellow Kohanim go and they puncture his brain. But mine Rav Achabar Huna me Rav Sheshes, Rav Achabar Huna asked Rav Sheshes, Kohen Sheshimesh Betuma, Chayiv Misa B'dei Shamayim, or Ein Chayiv Misa B'dei Shamayim. Okay, so Rav Achabar Huna asked Rav Sheshes that a Kohen Sheshimesh Betuma, if a Kohen serves in the Beis Hamikdash in a state of Tumah, so Chayiv Misa B'dei Shamayim, or Ein Chayiv Misa B'dei Shamayim, is he Chayiv Misa B'dei Shamayim for doing that? Omalei, so Sheshes responds, well, Tinisua, just look at our Mishnah. Kohen Sheshimesh Betuma, that a Kohen who serves in the Beis Hamikdash and he's Tamei, Ein Echov HaKayanim V'in Eisei LeBezdin, his fellow Kayanim don't bring him to, who's that? His fellow, are people here to visit? His fellow Kayanim, somebody's outside my house, but I am recording Babylon Talmud, so obviously I'm not going to open up or anything. I'll go upon him. Alright. Well, his fellow Kohanim do not bring him to Bezdin. Rather, his fellow Kohanim just take him outside of the Azara and quickly puncture his brain. Okay, who's outside? Somebody's walking in circles right outside the window. It's distracting me because I don't know who it is. Why is somebody? Who are you? I don't know. Who are you? Why are you walking in circles? I don't know, but I got stuff to do. Okay, so the shaila is a Kohen who serves in the Beis Hamikdash in a state of Tumah. Is he Chayiv Misa B'dei Shamayim or not? So Rav Sheshes says, well, the thing is, our Mishnah says that that his fellow Kohanim puncture his brain. So now V'isa G'daitich Mechayiv Misa B'dei Shamayim Lishavkei Delikto B'dei Shamayim. Now, if he was Chayiv Misa B'dei Shamayim, then why do his fellow Kohanim need to puncture his brain? Just let him be Chayiv Misa B'dei Shamayim. Elamai. So therefore, the implication being that Rav Sheshes' opinion is that he's not Chayiv Misa B'dei Shamayim, and his fellow Kohanim take matters into their own hands and they puncture his brain. So it says the Gemara, but Elamai Einu Chayiv. Wait, so therefore you're saying that he's not Chayiv Misa B'dei Shamayim, which is why his who? Oh, I thought that was them. Wait 1 second. Did they? All right. I hope that they managed to say hi. Anyways, whatever. Hakoponim. So Misa B'Dei Elamai Einoi Chayiv. Okay, so what, you're suggesting that they are not Chayiv? So if you're saying that they are not Chayiv, and therefore, or you're saying that he's not going to be Chayiv Misa, and that's why the fellow Kohanim take matters into their own hands and puncture his brain. But how could it be that that Mido Oraisa, he's not Chayiv Misa, and just like his fellow brethren are just like go and puncture his brains? Like, I don't, like, that's also weird. Like, Mido Oraisa, he's not Chayiv Misa, and like his fellow Kohanim are just going to go and puncture his brains out and kill him? Like, I don't understand. How does that make sense either? But why not? After all, we learned in the Mishnah, I think 2 days ago, somebody who gets Malchus twice, well, we just put him into the Kippah, which is essentially a death sentence. Even though he's not Chayiv Misa, he just got Malchus. So So Midoraisa is not Chayiv Misa, he's Chayiv Malchus. And yet, we, put him in the Kippah. So yeah, but Ha'amr Reb Yirmiyah, Amr Rish Lakish, B'Malchus Shel Kresis, Askinon, Tigava Bar K'tolahu. Yeah, but if you remember from 2 days ago, that Reb Yirmiyah said in the name of Rish Lakish that we're talking about something that was already a Chiyuv Karis for. So he actually was already Chayiv Misa. Gonev es HaKazva, what about Gonev es HaKazva? Yeah, but Ha'amar Rav Yehuda, what's a Kazva? B'Klei Sharis Askinon. That's talking about Klei Sharis, V'Amiza Lo Yavo. There's Kavala Esakodesh V'Meisut. By Klei Sharis, it talks about Uvala Esakodesh V'Meisut, that if you steal it, you die. So again, there's like a remiss that it is talking about something that there is already Misa involved. V'Mekal Esakosim. But Otani of Yosef, Yaka Kosim es Kosma, D'Mechzik M'varach Hashem. But they're also, that, yeah, we said that that's Kanoim Pogimbo, but that's also because it's like, right, you're basically blaspheming against God, which is why you're Chayiv Misa there also. We say Kanoim Pogimbo. So again, or let me even go a shtickle weiter. V'Boel Aramis. But what about Boel Aramis? So Ekari Rav Kana b'Chalmei v'Adki Rav D'Gmori. Yeah, but with Boel Aramis, right? Rav Kana had a dream, as we learned yesterday, with a certain pasuk, and that reminded Rav that basically what the pasuk is saying is that there's a chiyuv kares for Boel Aramis. So what happened here? So we want to know what's the halacha by Tomei Sheshimesh B'Mikdash. So if Sheshes wanted to argue that he must not be Chayiv Misa B'dei Shamayim, which, because if he was Chayiv Misa B'dei Shamayim, then why would his fellow Kohanim kill him? Just let him die B'dei Shamayim. So therefore must be that he is not Chayiv Misa B'dei Shamayim. To which the Gemara says that, yeah, but that's weird that he's potter from Misa, and yet we're going to kill him even though he's not Chayiv Misa. So then Rav Sheshes tried to counter, well, yeah, we have plenty of examples of that. After all, we said if you get Malchus twice, then you're put in the Kippah. We said, no, that's talking about something that Chayiv Kares. We talked about, what about a Gonef Isakasva? What about Kosim, a Makal B'Kosim? What at Boel Aramis? So we said, yeah, but in all those cases also you're Chayiv Misa. Right? So Be'etzem, Rav Sheshes wanted to say that a Tomei was it Tomei Kohen Sheshimesh Betuma, right? Rav Sheshes wants to argue that he's not Chayiv Misa B'dei Shamayim, but the Gemara is saying that doesn't make sense, because if he's not Chayiv Misa B'dei Shamayim, then why would we kill him? Like, if he's not Chayiv Misa, why are we going to kill him? Okay, now Eisvei, we now have a kasha on Rav Sheshes. Hayotzek, somebody who pours oil onto a meal offering, a flour offering. Va'bolel, and somebody who mixes the flour offering. Va'potes, and somebody who like breaks it up into crumbs. Va'moleach, and salts it. Hamenif, who waves it. Va'magish, and brings it forth to the mizbeach. Va'mesader es hashulchan, the person who organizes the shulchan in the tabernacle. Hametiv es haneris, the one who fixes up the candles and the menorah. Va'kometz, and somebody who takes the fistful. Va'makabel domim, and somebody who receives the blood of an animal. Bachutz potter. If you do any of these kinds of activities outside of the azara, you are potter. You are potter. And as Rashi points out, you'd only be chayiv for things like L'chayiv koris, the last Rashi of Pei Beis Amud Beis says l'chayiv koris ela shochet. Tichsav sheyishchat v'gomer u'mayle, right? Putting it on the mizbeach. Tichsav asher yayle ola v'zorek or zrikas adam. T'sav midam shavach. Okay, but not any of these other ones that we just listed. So you'd be potter b'chutz ve'ein chayiv an alein, and you would not be chayiv lo mishum zarus. Not right if you do any of these things as a zar, as a non-kohen, you are not chayiv. V'lo mishum tuma, and if you do them in a state of tuma, not chayiv. V'lo mishum mechusa begodim, if you aren't wearing the appropriate garments of the kohanim, you are not chayiv. V'lo mishum richutz yadayim v'raglayim, if you did not wash your hands and your feet, you're not chayiv. Okay, but ha mekater chayiv. But mekater chayiv. Okay, these, right, so for these activities that we did, like pouring the oil and mixing and all those activities, you would not be chayiv. But mekater, for burning a korban on the mizbeach, you would be chayiv for these things. And what's example of one of those things? That includes v'lo mishum tuma, right? But if mekater, you would be chayiv for tuma. My lab misa. And what do you mean chayiv? Doesn't mean that you're chayiv misa? No, so it would sound therefore like a kohen sheshimesh b'tuma is going to be chayiv misa. Lo bazar. No, when it says chayiv, it just means you're in violation of a lav of mitzvahs lo yisayse. You're violating a mitzvahs lo yisayse. Elazar nami leazhara. No, so if you're saying that by kohen shishimesh betuma, by mekater he's chayiv, meaning he just violates a mitzvahs lo yisayse, well, that implies that also it says lo mishum zaris, lo mishum tuma. So a zar also is just simply in violation of mitzvahs lo yisayse. But v'aksiv azar karav yumos. It says that a non-kohen who serves in the temple is chayiv misa. Well, hakadisa v'akadisa. Yeah, well, each one's separate. Azar is chayiv misa. Kohen shishimish betuma is just over on the lav. But michlal the yotzek uvolel lav nami lo. But that implies that yotzek and bolel, all those other malachos where we said that he's potter, so he's not even over on a lav. It's just like he's not in violation of anything. But v'atani we learned about azhar liyotzek v'ol minayin. How do we know a warning for somebody who pours and mixes in a state of tumah? So Talmud Lomar kedoshim yu v'lo yichalalu, that you should be holy and do not profane. So we see that by yotzek and bol they would be in violation of a lav midarabban v'kos malchta ba'alma. We say no, it's actually midoraisa. They would not be chayiv on a lav. It's just midarabana that we say they're chayiv on a lav, but really midoraisa they would not be over on any lav. When we say by mekater you're chayiv, by tuma it's just a lav, but not misa. But meisvei ve'elu ein shebemisa tomer sheshimish to yufta. But we have a contradiction from a brisa that says that by ve'elu ein shebemisa that the following are chayiv misa b'dei shamayim tomer sheshimesh, and the brisa says a tomer sheshimesh, that if you have somebody who is tamei and serves in the Beis Hamikdash, chayiv misa b'dei shamayim. So there you have it, and it is a kasha on Rav Sheshes, who wanted to say that tamei sheshimesh is not chayiv b'dei shamayim, but we have a brayse that says tamei sheshimesh is chayiv misa b'dei shamayim. Okay, now Kufa. So we had just said, right, ve'elu in shebemisa tamei sheshimesh. Now we're gonna expand that brayse and give you the whole brisa of all of these examples that we're talking about. Kufa ve'elu shebemisa, the following you would be chayiv misa b'dei shamayim. Ha'ochel es hatevel, eating untithed produce, chayiv misa b'dei shamayim. V'koyin tamei shachal truma tahora, a koyin tamei who eats truma tahora, right? So a koyin can eat truma, but if he's tamei, he cannot. A koyin tamei cannot eat truma tahora. We're going to learn about truma tameya later on. But v'zar shachal es truma. And if a non-kohen eats truma, he's going to be chayiv misa b'dei shamayim. V'zar sheshimesh, a non-kohen who serves in the temple, is chayiv misa b'dei shamayim. V'tomei sheshimesh, and a person who's tamei, a kohen who's tamei, who serves in the temple, as we just learned about, is chayiv misa b'dei shamayim. U'tvul yom, right? A person who, let's say, is a zav, a kohen is a zav, and on the last day of being a zav, he goes to the mikveh in the morning, and for the rest of the day he's a tvul yom. He cannot serve in the temple. If he does, he's chayiv misa b'dei shamayim, sheshimesh. U'mechusa begadim, and if a person is not if a kohen is not wearing the proper priestly garments, he's chayiv misa b'dei shamayim if he does avoda. Mechusar kapara. So now, after a person is a mechusar, is a tvul yom, so then at the end of the day, you can like eat truma and stuff, but then the next day he has to bring a korban, and until he brings that korban, he cannot serve in the temple. And if he does, he's chayiv misa b'dei shamayim. V'shalo rochas yadayim v'raglayim. And if he did not wash his hands and his feet, he'll be chayiv misa b'dei shamayim if he works in the temple. V'shasuya yayin. And if he drinks wine, if he comes fashnikit to the Beis HaMikdash to do avoda, ufurei rosh, or if he doesn't have a proper haircut, right? Let's say he grows his hair out. All of these are examples of misa b'dei shamayim. Aval orel, but somebody who is in orel doesn't have bris milah. No, actually, wait, orel is what? Orel. Yeah, no, orel is somebody who doesn't have bris milah. So I believe that's what we're talking about. We're going to learn about it more tomorrow. I think that's what it's talking about. The onen, or somebody who a relative passed away and is not yet buried. V'yoshev, or does the service sitting. Einon b'misa ela basara, are not chayiv misa b'dei shamayim. They are just in violation of a mitzvah lo saseh. Balmum, a kohen who has a physical blemish. Rabbi Omer says, Rabbi b'misa, if he does service in the temple, he's chayiv misa b'dei shamayim. V'chachamim be'azara, the chacham say it is simply a violation of mitzvah lo saseh. Hezid b'me'ilah. Or when it comes to me'ilah is accidentally getting a benefit from kodshim, and then you have to bring in osham me'ilos. But what if you do it intentionally? What if intentionally you get benefit from kodshim? So Rabbi Omer says, Rabbi b'misa, Rabbi says that it is misa b'dei shamayim, v'chachamim be'asara. The chacham say you are in violation of a lav. Ha'ochel es atevel. Okay, zeh. Now, we are going to go through each one of these very exciting concepts one by one, and we will explain why for each of these things you are chayiv what you are chayiv for. The Bryce had begun with a bunch of things that you are chayiv misa b'dei shamayim for. We are going to go through that, all of those bunch of things, and explain how we know that you're chayiv misa b'dei shamayim. This is going to be really exciting. Ha'ochel es tevel, somebody who eats tevel, untied produce, is chayiv misa b'dei shamayim. How do we know? Because Shmuel says, Mishum Beliezer, minayin la'ochel es hatevel shu b'misa. How do we know that somebody who eats untied produce is chayiv misa b'dei shamayim? Dichsiv, as the pasuk says, v'lo yechalu as kodshei b'nei Yisrael, asher yarimu LaHashem, right? That they will not be mechalel. That's going to be an important word. As kodshei b'nei Yisrael, asher yarimu, that they will tithe. I.e., we're talking about that it's not yet tithe. It's tevel. LaHashem basidim l'sroa makosu medaber. That in the future they are going to be torim. They are going to be tithe. They will tithe it. But currently it has not yet been tithe. It's tevel. V'yalav chilul mitrume. And we learn at Gzeir Shava that it says yichalalu, plural. That's going to be important soon. That it says lo yichalalu by tevel, and it says by trume. What does it say? It says by trume v'shamros mishmarti v'lo yisua lav chet umeisubo ki yichalalu ani Hashem mekadesham. So we learn Gzeir Shava of chilul between tevel and trume. Malholim b'misa avkan b'misa. Just like by trume, a person who's tamei, a kohen who's tamei that eats truma tahora is chayiv misa b'dei shamayim. So avkan misa. So here also by tevel, somebody who eats tevel is chayiv misa b'dei shamayim. V'nelev chilul minosar. But wait, by noser, right, meat that was not eaten within its proper time to be eaten, and it's left over. Somebody who eats noser is chayiv karis, and it says chilul there as well. What does it say over there? V'ochlev avono yisa ki es kodesh Hashem chilel. And then you get karis. So now over there though it says chilel, which is singular. So by tevel it was plural, right? Is yichalaluhu. By lo yichalalu by tevel. By truma I believe it was lo ki yichalaluhu. Both of those are plural. But by noser it's singular. It's chilel. So malaholim b'karis avkan b'karis. So now why don't we say that just like by the singular plural thing is going to be relevant in a minute. But now we suggest why are we saying chilul from? Why are we saying chilul from? There's more people here now. Why are we saying chilul from truma to say misa b'dei shamayim? Why don't we say chilul from nosar to say karis? So malaholim b'karis avkan karis. So mistavim mitruma avalei lemelav. well, it makes more sense to learn out tevel from truma to say misa b'dei shamayim because shekain truma, okay, because truma is obviously truma, and tevel is basically produce that has truma in it, and you have to separate it, right? Whereas noser has nothing to do with truma. Chutz laaretz, right? Tevel and truma is only in Eretz Yisrael, right? Right. As opposed to nosar is noig bamidbar, right? In the desert, nosar was a thing, and also whenever there's heter bamis, nosar is a thing. I guess even in Chutz Laaretz. So now, okay. Whereas truma and tevel is irrelevant in Chutz Laaretz. Hutra, also truma and tevel both have a way to become permitted, right? Tevel becomes permitted by tithing it, right? Truma was talking about somebody who's tameh eating truma will just become tahor, and then you can eat it. Whereas nosar is nosar. There's nothing you can do about it. You just have to burn it. But rabim, and that's what I was pointing out earlier, that both by tevel and by truma it is plural, right? Chilel is plural, whereas by nosar it is singular. Peris, right? Tevel and truma is by fruits, whereas nosar is by meat. Pigol v'nosar, and pigol and nosar applies to nosar, whereas pigol and nosar is not shaykh to tevel and truma. So, because of all of those similarities, it makes sense to learn tevel from truma. Adraba, wait, maybe I'll argue. Minosar avalei lemelech. Learn out truma, learn out tevel from nosar. Shekain psul ochel. Because after all, tevel is a psul ochel, right? The issue is with the food itself; it's untithed. Nosar is also an issue with the food itself. It is wasn't eaten in its proper time. The food itself is nosar, is left over. As opposed to truma, we're talking about the person is tameh, therefore he can't eat it. The truma is just fine. It's a psul of the ochel by tevel and by nosar. And ein lo heter b'mikvah. Also, by somebody who's tameh. And the relationship with truma as well, they can just go to the mikvah, problem solved. Tevel and nosar, you can't put into the mikvah. So that makes tevel and nosar similar. But hanach nefishan, but between tevel and truma, there were like 1,000 similarities. Between tevel and nosar, there are only 2. So therefore, we have we learn from truma and say that it's b'misa b'dei shamayim rather than kares. Ravina Amar Chilul Dirabim Michilo Dirabim Adif. Whereas Ravina says, well, simply put, if we're making a Gzeir Shava, it makes sense that Tevel, which as Chilo in plural, should be learned out from Truma, which has Chilo in plural, rather than Nosar, which has Chilo in singular, because if we're learning out from the same word, well, you want it to be as similar as possible. V'koyin Tomei Shachol Truma Torah. Okay, and we said that a koyin who is Tomei, who eats Truma Tehora, is chayav misa b'dei shamayim. How do you know? The Shmuel says, "Benayin the kohen tamei she'achal truma toresh u'b'misa b'dei shamayim dichsiv v'shamos mishmartiv lo yisu alav chet." And then the pasuk continues mamish the next word. I don't know why they cut it off here because the important word is what's next. U'meisubo ki yichalaluhu. And yeshem mekadasham. So it says by a kohen tamei who eats truma torah that u'meisubo ki yichalaluhu, that you will be chayav misa b'dei shamayim. Tahora in, Timea lo. And that's specifically by Truma Tahora, right? A kohen tamei who eats Truma Tahora, but not a kohen tamei who eats Truma Tmea. That would not be Chayav Misa B'dei Shamayim. To Amar Shmuel, Amar Eliezer Minayin, the kohen tamei she'achal Truma Tmea she'eino b'misa. How do you know that a kohen tamei who eats Truma Tmea is not Chayav Misa? Shneimar, as the pasuk says, Umeisubo ki yichalaluhu. That you will be Chayav Misa B'dei Shamayim because you are being mechalal the Truma Tahora. But lazo shemechuleles v'omedes. But here, truma tmeya is already mechuleles, so therefore he's not going to be chayav misa b'dei shamayim for in the situation of a kohen tamei who eats truma tmeya. V'zar she'achal es truma, and a non-kohen who eats truma is chayav misa b'dei shamayim. Amar Rav, says Rav, zar she'achal es truma loke. Says Rav that a zar, a non-kohen who eats truma, does not get misa b'dei shamayim. He actually just gets malkis Amri le Rav Kahana Rav Asi le Rav, but Rav Kahana and Rav Asi say to Rav, Lemamar b'misa. But why don't you say that he's chayiv misa b'dei shemayim, that a non-kohen who eats truma is chayiv misa b'dei shemayim? Tichsiv v'chol zar lo yochal kodesh, because the pasuk says that any non-kohen is prohibited from eating truma. Right now, that comes right after the pasuk by a kohen tameh who eats truma tahora. Right, the pasuk says by a kohen tameh who eats truma tahora, v'shamru es mishmarti v'lo yisu alav chet u'meisu bo ki yichalu. And then the very next pasuk says v'chol zar lo yochal kodesh, that any non-kohen is prohibited from eating truma. So kodesh, anything sanctified, sanctified. Anyways, so why don't we say that just like in the previous pasuk we're talking about misa b'dei shemayim? So say that zar she'achal truma is also misa b'dei shemayim. So Anfert Rav that between umeisubo ki yichaluhu and v'chozor le'yochal kodesh, it says the words aniyash mekadesham, which breaks that up, and therefore Rav says that the misa b'dei shemayim does not apply to v'zor le'yochal kodesh, and it's simply a lav. Meisvei, but we have a contradiction. Ve'eluin she b'misa zar ha'ochel esa truma. That the brayso that we learned says that a zar who eats truma is chayiv misa b'dei shemayim. How could Rav say that it's only a lav? So masniso adarav karamis. What you're asking a kasha on Rav from a brayso? Rav Tanu upolig. Rav is a Tana, and he argues. Oh, Rav is a Tana. You can argue on the brayso. Sometimes we see that. Rav was like the first generation of Amoroi. He was a student of Rebbe. Rebbe was, of course, a Tana. So sometimes Rav is kind of in that in-between generation, and sometimes we even treat Rav like a Tana, and we're saying, don't ask a kasha on Rav from a brayso. Rav can argue on a brayso. Wow. V'zar sheshimesh, a non-kohen who serves in the temple, is chayiv misa b'dei shemayim dichsiv v'azara karev yumos. Right, as the pasuk says, a zar who gets close is chayiv misa b'dei shemayim. Right, to the somebody who zar who serves in the temple is chayiv misa b'dei shemayim. V'tamei sheshimesh, and a tamei who served in the temple. This was sort of the initial, right? This was the starting point of our daf today. Somebody who's tamei, a kohen who's tamei who serves in the temple. Kedaba mine Rav Chia bar Ovin Rav Yosef, like Rav Chia bar Ovin asked Rav Yosef, minayin the tamei sheshimesh shehu b'misa. How do we know that somebody who is tamei? How do we know that somebody who is tamei, a kohen who's tamei who serves in the temple, that is chayiv misa b'dei shemayim? Dichsiv daber laharon ve'albanov, that it says, speak to Aaron and his children, v'yinozru mikadshim b'nei Yisrael, and they should stay away from the kadshim of b'nei Yisrael when they are tamei, essentially, right? It's talking about tumah. V'leichalu Hashem kadshi, and they should not be mechalav. V'leichalu Hashem kadshi v'yolav chilul mitruma malaholim b'misa avkam b'misa. Just like by truma, it's misa b'dei shemayim. So also by a tamei sheshimesh is also going to be chayiv misa b'dei shemayim. V'neilef chilul minoser. But why don't we make the gzera shav of chilul from noser malaholim karis afkan karis? Just like by noser it's karis, so also by tamei sheshimesh it should be karis. Mistav mitruma avdei the melach. Well, it makes sense that we should learn out tamei sheshimesh from trume misa b'dei shemayim shken guf, because tamei sheshimesh, we're talking about the guy himself, the kohen himself is tamei, and tamei shachal truma also, we're talking about where the person himself is tamei. It's talking about the person himself, tamei, and also we're talking about tuma, right? Tamei sheshimesh, tamei shachal truma, as opposed to nosar, right, which is not tamei. Mikveh, right, both by the tamei sheshimesh and by the tamei shachal truma, they just go to the mikveh, problem solved. You can't do that by noser. Barabim, and also the word chilul is plural both by tamei sheshimesh as well as by tamei shachal truma. Adrabim minoser avdei. No, let's learn enough from noser shekain kodesh, because we're talking about kodshim, right? Tamei sheshimesh, we're talking, right? He's working in the Beis Hamikdash with kodshim, and also noser is korbanos. Pnim, we're talking about inside the Beis Hamikdash. Pigul and noser are both shaykh to avodah in the Beis Hamikdash. but not to truma. But chilul d'rab and chilul d'rab madaf. But better for the gzeira shava of chilul makes sense that since both by Tomish Hashimesh and by Tomish Shochat Truma, chilul is plural, so therefore that is the better Gezerah Shava to make. Tvul Yom Shashimesh, a Tvul Yom who serves in the temple Minol, and how do we know that he is Chayiv Misa B'Deshmaim? The Tanya is within the Brisa. Reb Simai Omer says, Reb Simai, Rem is the Tvul Yom. A rem is for a Tvul Yom Shem Ovad Chilel, that if he serves in the temple, he is Mechalel. Minayin Tamilomer Kedoshim Yiu Leloikeim V'lo Yechalalu. That they should be holy to their God and not be mechalel. It's not talking about Tomish Shashimesh because we already learned that from a different pasuk of V'yinozru. So it's in L'Tvul Yom Shashimesh V'elav Chilul Chilul Mitruma Malaholon Misa Afkan Misa. Okay. Somebody who is not wearing the proper garb of a kohen. Minol, and how do we know this? That he's chayav misa b'dei shemayim. Amar Babau, Amar B'Yochanan, umatu ba mishmei d'Rabbalazar b'Shimon v'chagarta osam avnet. It says that they'll put on the belt, and then the pasuk continues. I'm reading the pasuk now. Aharon avanim v'chavash d'loi migbos v'hoisulem kuhuna l'chukas olam u'mileisa yad aharon v'yad banav. It says that by wearing these garments v'hoisulem kuhuna, then they will be kohanim. So bisman sheb'gdeim aleim kunosum aleim. That when they are wearing the proper garb, they are considered to be kohanim. Ein bigdei aleim, ein kunosum aleim. But when they are not wearing the proper garb, then their kahuna is not upon them. V'avalu zarim. And if they're not considered kohanim, then what are they? Zarim. And we said that a zar who serves in the temple is chayiv misa b'dei shemayim. Mechusar kapara. Somebody who was, let's say, a zav, and then they went to the mikvah, and they were a tvul yom, and then it was the nighttime. The next day, they now have to bring a korban. But so long as they haven't yet brought their korban, Minol, and how do we know that they'd be chayiv misa b'dei shemayim if they serve in the temple? That it says by a yoledes that at the end of her period of, either 40 days for a boy, 80 days for a girl, it says that she brings her korban, and then the kohen will atone for her v'tahera, and now she is pure. Tahera michal she tameya, implying that up until then she is tameya. V'amar tomish shashimesh b'misa, and if mechusar kippurim if he's tamei, well, we already said tomish shashimesh is misa b'dei shemayim. V'shalo rachutz yadayim v'raglayim, if he has not yet washed his hands and his feet, minalan dichsiv, as the pasuk says, b'vam el oil moed yirchatz umayim v'lo yamus. The pasuk says that when they come to the oil moed, they will wash their hands. They will wash with water and they won't die, implying that if they don't wash with water, they will die. And if they're fashnikit, the pasuk says in Sefer Vayikra, the pasuk says that if you don't drink wine, you won't die. Double negative, implying if you do drink wine, you will die. And also if they are unhaircutted, Tichsiv, as the pasuk says, Rosham lo yigalechu, fer lo shalechu, sebasiv yain lo yishtu. That the pasuk in Yechezkel first talks about Rosham lo yigalechu, they shouldn't completely shave bald their heads, but also fer lo yishalechu, they shouldn't have it grow out too long. And it talks about it says right after v'yain lo yishtu, they shouldn't drink wine. Iskush puri rosh l'shusu yain. Therefore, we compare unhaircutting to drinking wine. Mashasuyan b'misa perirosh b'misa, just like drinking wine is a misa b'dei shemayim, so also unhaircutting is misa b'dei shemayim. Chevra. That was that Pei Gimel of Masechta Sanhedrin. Peace out.